What's up, party people? I'm Mary Kopczynski, and here's your update on this week's 17,593 alerts. The regulator of the week is Alaska. Why? Maybe it's because it's August. They can actually see with the sun up all day, and it spurs a lot of activity. But there were a ton of invitations to bid coming from all over the state. The Department of Public Safety, for example, is looking for help to repair aircraft engines. The Department of Transportation is looking for resources of potassium acetate, whatever that is. They're also looking for help to dispose used oil and oil water, as well as elevator maintenance on AMHS vessels. Who says regulatory alerts are boring? Why not forward along some of these alerts to your sales teams and be the hero that brings in revenue? The topic of the week is much less fun. Forced labor. I know many of you are aware that human rights organizations allege that over 1 million Uyghur and other Muslim minority groups have been subjected to forced labor and genocide in the Xinjiang province of China. To combat this, the United States passed the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. What it does is it effectively bans imports from the region and puts the burden on companies that are importing goods into the U.S. to confirm through their entire supply chain that they are not using any goods or services produced from that area. It doesn't matter if you actually know for sure that the company is paying their workers. There's a rebuttable presumption, which means it is absolutely assumed that anything coming from that region is problematic and you will have to defend yourself if caught, including anything from there in your supply chain. This is highly problematic because 20% of the world's cotton is produced in China and 86% of that cotton is produced in the Xinjiang region. So to help you, there is a new list of lists. That's right, you get the joy of looking for more than OFAC sanctions. You also get to look at Homeland Security's. They are the chair of the Forced Labor Enforcement Task Force. They have a newly updated and published Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act entity list, which is a consolidated register of all of the companies you need to avoid. Some of the entities are actually bad because they're mining or producing goods from the region. Some are entities working with the government to recruit, transport, transfer, harbor, any sort of forced labor. Some of these are facilities and entities that are known to be sourcing materials from Xinjiang, and some of these are entities that are known exporters of products from the region. In short, the Custom and Border Protection Agency can take your goods at any time. They'll, of course, warn you. But if there's a suspicion of violation, you need to be ready right away with proof. Also this week, the DoD, NASA, and the GSA are proposing to update the federal acquisition regulations. Those are rules where they're sourcing things for the government. There's a special section on trafficking that any airline that is producing air travel to the federal government, they're going to have to produce an annual report that tells the government the number of personnel they trained on detection and reporting of potential human rights trafficking, the number of actual notifications of potential human rights trafficking victims they found, and whether they actually notified the Global Human Trafficking Hotline or not. Additionally, DoD and NASA are also proposing to amend the federal acquisition rules to focus on current environmental and sustainability matters. No surprise. They want to implement a requirement for agencies to procure sustainable products and services to the maximum extent practicable. Written comments for both changes are due in early October, so if you are an airline or you are in some way servicing the government, you have time to give them your thoughts. What else do you really need to know this week? The SEC adopted rules requiring any publicly traded company to disclose material cybersecurity incidents to the SEC within 4 days of determining the incident was material. Additionally, companies are going to be annually disclosing what they're doing in terms of their cybersecurity risk management strategy and governance practices. These rules are coming live December of 2023. Speaking of cyber, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is CISA, they're sort of the new sheriff in town at the federal level for cybersecurity. They've completed a huge program looking at the different sectors in the world and what needs to be done for safety. And now they're working with risk management agencies within each of the sectors to figure out what everyone needs to do to be better at cyber. And the first 4 sectors they're working on is energy, financial services, IT, and chemical. In addition, they will be working on the water and wastewater sector, healthcare, and K through 12s. The FDIC put out a financial institution letter outlining the new exam manual for AML, KYC, and Bank Secrecy Act rules. So all my friends out there in that space, go check it out. Additionally, the SEC finalized the proposal for money market liquidity reporting. This one's been going on for a while, but I can tell you it is still going to shock a lot of people when they realize it's really happening. Moving on to the states, Delaware and Colorado both passed laws and are throwing money into electric vehicle infrastructure. Delaware is going to offer a $2,500 tax rebate for residents who buy electric cars and $1,000 if they buy hybrid cars. California announced that 1 in 4 new cars that are sold are zero emissions cars, so they're getting closer to their goal of net zero. Last but not least, the whole world is continuing to freak out about artificial intelligence. In addition to 2 congressional research papers addressing legal and election issues with the technology, the Federal Election Commission is holding a public meeting tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern to talk about it. So if you want to be a fly on the wall, you can. And that's it this week for RegAlytics. Join me every Wednesday for your dose of regulatory news.